This has been the most challenging solar install we have ever done. Let me explain. Oh no, we've got a problem. No, you're stringing it up the wrong way. It's not my plan.
That's what happens if you go under the panels.
Nearly £10,000 worth of cable just for this.
We're gonna need a bigger mole.
Yeah, something's not quite right on this one either. Now you might think doing a ground mount solar install should be easy, right? No complicated roof work, everything's low level, easy to access. You've got no limit on how much space you can fill with solar panels. But we've faced some real hurdles on this project that have made it a bit of a nightmare to get to the point where we are today. Let me tell you about the first one. By the way, today's video is sponsored by Sigenergy. More about that later in the video. So number one is the distance from the field to the house. It's about 200 meters of cable run. The customer doesn't want trenching, which throws a whole nother issue into the mix because he doesn't want the grass to die, which typically happens if you trench and then relay the turf. So we're looking at impact moulding for the groundworks. That's where you dig a small hole and you send a mole to tunnel under the ground, not an animal. We're not into animal slave labor here at Artisan Electrics. A moulding machine which impacts its way through the ground to create a perfect tunnel to pull our cables. And after 6 months of arduous planning and site visits, Tom and Luke were on site to help with possibly the most epic cable pull we've ever done. While the mole does its thing, Tom and Luke are starting the prep work for the battery install.
As you can see, we've got this boarding here on the back, no good to fix to. So we're putting 12mm ply on, and then on top of this, we're going to put our 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐴𝐴, which is our fireproof cement board.
Do you want anything else?
Yeah, I want my hat. Where's my hat? Oi, Unilight, where's my hat? So the first 2 bits of ply are in, just got to rip this last one down, and then we're ready to 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐴𝐴 over the top. Cool. Oh, making you feel involved. So plies all on, we've countersunk all the screws as well so they don't stick through the 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐴𝐴. And now it's about piecing the 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐴𝐴 on. We're going to try the new 𝐿TY BX nail gun. Hopefully it's not too powerful.
And on mountains.
Do you know the words?
That's all I know. You raised me. I don't know.
𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐴𝐴 is almost all up. Last couple of cuts to go. What's really exciting is we've got SolarEdge 3-phase inverter, 30 kilowatt going up here. And then we've got 2 stacks of Sigenergy inverter and battery systems. And then we've got an EV DC charger, which is a new product that we've not seen or fitted from Sigen, but it's supposed to be really good and really exciting. So we've got 4 PV Ultra 6mm 2 cores to come in from the array up there, so we've got 4 strings, and we'll just take you on the route now. That's what happens if you go under the panels. It's a warning to all birds.
You'll have to cut out, you'll get demonetised for that. If you do like black and white, we can hold hands and skip down. Okay, so this is actually the first hole where they started. If you look this way, this is where the solar array is. So from here, they'll take it over right to the array to make it easier for us, as it's still all underground. They can only do about 10 to 20 metres at a time, and they'll dig an inspection hole and they'll bring it up, take the disconnect torpedo, put it down again, and then carry on. So up in the garden, there'll be a couple of holes where they'll have little hatches, inspection hatches, so they can see. But yeah, like I say, it'll just be totally underground and there'll be no cable on show at all.
So it's day 2 on site here at Oxford doing the solar PV. The Cornish rocker frames are still getting built. They reckon there'll be another few days on them. We've got panels turning up tomorrow and they're going to panel the whole array for us. The Moulding guys are just finalising the DC run, which is going to run into the centre of the arrays, but I think within the next couple of days we should be good to go. The Cornish Rocker guys are doing their thing and building their framework, and just want to talk to you about how cool this system is. It's basically a framework ground mount system that you could put anywhere on relatively flat ground. So if you have a large space like we've done previously with menages and disused fields, this system is perfect. It sits high off the ground, and what it has is it has adjustment on it as well. So what happens is the customer can actually adjust the array depending on the time of year. So the Cornish Rocker is rocking, the molars are molding. We're waiting on the Sigenergy battery systems, we're waiting on the SolarEdge inverter and the panels. So we're closing down the site today. We'll be back once all the cabling's done for us and the panelling's done for us, and we'll be cracking on with the bits inside the stable and the optimizers and the isolators.
The team we use to install the ground mount system are like a well-oiled machine, and within just 2 days the entire system was mounted and all the panels were fixed firmly to their frame, leaving us free to focus on the electrical side of things, connecting up the inverters, panels and batteries, and getting everything livened up when we came back to site. So with the panels installed, the cable molding almost complete, we were making good progress, but there was still a lot of work to do. So I'm back here with the team. We've got all hands on deck here this week for this final few days of this project to get it all livened up and working. So the Impact Moulding team have installed over 1 kilometre of cables on this project. In fact, this cable here, which is what we call PV Ultra, it's a DC armoured cable. This goes all the way back to the inverter and the stables, and each length of this is 200 metres. And we've got 4 lengths of 2-core 6mm PV Ultra. 800 metres of this cable alone, and it is literally nearly £10,000 worth of cable just for this. It's a ton of money. And here we are at the other end of our DC cables, 200 metres later, all neatly and carefully installed. Yeah, they're a bit muddy, of course, but we can clean those up. And now they're ready to be cable tied back in the cable tray up to the inverter. Oh yeah, look at that. 3 bank presses. It's pretty heavy. So this is Nathan, our moulding expert, and we're here to find out more about how this crazy thing works. It looks like some kind of torpedo.
It does indeed, yes, yeah, but it's called an impact mould. It runs on compressed air, so it's impacting its way through the earth. There's one we usually use, that smaller one, but because you had so many cables, we've hired a larger one.
We're gonna need a bigger mould.
Yeah, and it will travel under the ground around 1/2 inch to 1 inch per beat, you know.
Per impact. So
yeah,
like,
per impact,
boom,
yeah. And it leaves a perfect hole in the ground. It's like concrete.
Yeah. And
you just slide it through. That's like the ducting.
So if the customer says, I want to double the amount of solar panels, do you reckon we'll be able to pull some more cables through?
No, not that. It would probably stay open for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, the whole.
Yeah, and then it'll kind of just cave back in, and with the rain and stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's been the biggest challenge on this one? What obstacles have you hit?
Coming up through some of the areas, the ground wasn't amazing. It was like made up ground, bands of chalk and normal topsoil, which obviously the mould generally tends to come up. But yeah, apart from that, it's gone really well. We've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Well,
interesting.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Top.
So this system isn't your typical ground mount solar system. It's a bit different because it's movable. It's got a very simple adjustment system with this Allen key. We just loosen this nut and then we do the same at the other side, and then the whole thing will tilt. Like so. So you might be wondering, why would you want to be able to tilt your solar panel system? Well, it's all about irradiance and effectiveness of production. So imagine in summer, the sun is generally quite high in the sky. So you want the panels at a low pitch like this is about 15 degrees in the height of summer, to get the best possible irradiance on these panels. You essentially want the sun directly shining on the panels for as long as possible throughout the day. However, in winter, there's a difference. The sun is a lot lower in the sky, and that's when you want to tilt these panels up a lot higher, up to say 60 degrees, which gives you the optimal angle for more production during the winter when the sun is lower in the sky.
Stack 1 almost finished with the EV DC charger on it.
Okay, so the first stack's up. So we're just putting all these side panels on. On the left-hand side, you have these ones with like an LED strip all running the whole way down the battery stack. So you've got these plugs, which basically just link them all from the inverter at the top, which feeds the lights. First one in, then you want to get your bottom one, plug them two together, then that can click on, and you just work your way up. And because we've got a car charger on this one, there's actually a special one that's got like a cutout for the cable, so that'll go there. So yeah, I'll just build my way up, basically just hiding all the rough edges and making it look nice.
So Luke and Ruben have been busy getting all the optimizers and cables in. Tell us how far you've got, what you're getting on, how you're getting on.
Well, I feel we would have been a lot further if we had done it correctly the first way, but it's a lesson we've learnt, and yeah, we've got the first section done. They're on the second, so hopefully by the end of the day we should have all 4 of them cable tied up.
Yeah, that's my fault. I came in and was like, no, you're stringing it up the wrong way. It's not what I planned.
There's a plan.
It's the really annoying boss who's so pedantic and has to have everything done his own way. But I think it's perfect now. It's going to be good.
Just a lot of cable ties.
Yeah, lots of cable ties, and then move on to that set, right?
Yep.
Woo. So you might wonder, what are these strange boxes that we call optimizers that we're installing? Well, they are exactly what they say on the tin. They optimize the performance of the system because we're using a SolarEdge system here. Now you might wonder, why use SolarEdge? Why not use a normal string inverter? They do that for a lot of ground mount systems. There are a number of reasons why we decided to do SolarEdge on this one. I'll tell you a bit more later on. So these are S1000 optimizers. That means they can take up to 1,000 watts of DC power into them. And essentially what that means is we can string 2 panels into one optimizer. So they work in series. So what happens is the positive from this panel goes into the optimizer, then the negative from this panel loops into the positive of the next panel, and then from the negative of that next panel, it goes back into the optimizer. So it's like a little circuit with just 2 panels on one optimizer, and then each optimizer connects into the next one to create a whole string of optimizers. So this also doubles up as a very large ping pong table, which is quite nice. The reason they're able to lay flat like this is genius, because it makes the installation super quick. So they set them all flat like this, they lay the panels down, and then they just go and clamp them along. So while the guys are busy mounting the last of the battery modules, let me give you an overview of this system. It is quite impressive. So we've got 120 bifacial 440 watt solar panels. They're double glass as well, with a transparent backsheet, which means the solar passes through them, reflects back off the grass and off the surrounding area, and you'll get extra generation. But these are really the highlight for me on this install. We've got 2 stacks of Sigenergy 8 kilowatt hour battery modules here for a total of a whopping 88 kilowatt hours of battery storage. We've also got this, which is completely new for us, and we'll go in depth on that on a separate video. It's a bi-directional DC EV charger, and it's a module that stacks in within these batteries. We've got a total of 30 kilowatts of battery inverters and a 30 kilowatt SolarEdge inverter, and the whole system is going to basically more or less take the customer completely off grid. Unlike roof mount solar, which comes under permitted development, ground mount solar requires planning permission. And when you've got an array of this size in an area like this, there are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. For example, tree surveys, animal reports. Neighbours can all comment on what you're doing and put their 2 pence worth in about how they don't want a massive solar array near their house. So to get to this point has been months of back and forth with planning, including having to do a slight redesign with the cable route, because we had a big tree that we had to go around to avoid damaging the roots.
Right, we were just installing the first Sigenergy stack that's got the DC car charger. We put it all together and we was like, oh, it don't look right, the cable's sort of coming out the side. And then we had some sort of brackets spare, so found a video online, basically took the sides off. What you do is you take the cable down to the floor, and then there's a bracket that screws to it with a grommet around it, and then you put all your side plates back on, and then that takes, so you've got your stack, and then your cable will come out the bottom of the stack, and then basically you've got a hook you can coil the cable on, and then a holster that you can plug the plug into. So just bear in mind, however high you stack the car charger, you're going to lose that cable where it drops back down to the floor, but you don't want to do the stack of the car charger at the bottom because there's a button on it, so that needs to be at least 1 metre high from the instructions. So just a few little things to check.
This is my first time installing this 𝐒𝐮𝐫 gear, and obviously we've got a lot of it to put in here. For the amount of battery storage, the size of the inverters, the fact that we've got an EV DC charger as well, it goes together really easily and it goes together really simply. I've been doing Tesla for many years, SolarEdge for many years, and there's always some complications with installations. These are so easy. The ground mount system, fix the base to the floor, the top inverter's got brackets on it that get fixed on. The only issue, which is the same with any batteries and inverter systems, is the weight. Obviously you need to be careful. The higher the battery stacks, the more difficult it gets to be able to lift the batteries up to that height. But as long as you're safe while doing it, it's very easy, simple to install. All these side decorative covers just clip on and off. So if you do make a mistake or you forget something, like we had to readjust the DC charger there, you just pop them off and then re-clip them back on.
What a day! Day one is done. The sun is just about going under the horizon, and we've accomplished a lot today. I'm really pleased with what the team has done. We're all staying in the local Premier Inn tonight, so we're going to get home, have a hot shower, have some dinner, ready for another epic day tomorrow. See you then. So it's bright and early on day 2 of this install. Lee and Luke are just about to start installing the gateway here at the meter box end. We've got our lovely gazebo that they're working under. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Tom and Ruben are in the plant room starting to dress the cables up onto the cable tray to get everything connected into the inverters and battery stacks. And we've got a little bit of finishing off to do at the solar array. So let's get into it. So although it's nice and sunny and clear blue sky now, you just never know what's going to happen with the weather at this time of year. So we've got this gazebo thing, which is our tool of the day. We'll leave you a link below where you can get it off Amazon. It's quite reasonably priced and it just folds up, but it means that you've got a pop-up tent to protect yourself from the weather and avoid you having to stop working because of the rain on these kind of British weathery type days. So I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's like I say, it was pretty cheap, but it seems to be decent quality, and it just means that Lee can work here now, and if it starts raining he doesn't need to stop. He can just carry on, keep everything dry, nice little workspace. This cable spaghetti is triggering my OCD a little bit, because although we're cleaning them with the wipes to make sure that they look nice and neat, because they've been pulled through like a massive tunnel under the ground essentially, of course, you know, they're a little bit scratched and rubbed, so the outer sheath of the cable is not like absolutely pristine, which is slightly triggering my OCD. I was saying that we should have some of that like tyre shine stuff that you put on tyres, and then it'll just like, yeah, they call it a tyre blackout or something like that. We should just put some of that on there, and then they'll look absolutely pristine again, or some black paint. But I'm just being over the top now. I just need to come to terms with the fact that these cables are real life cables. They've been used in the real world, not like my tool bag. It's confession time. I know you guys think we're perfect, but we're not. We make mistakes. And here's another one for you, another one to add to the list. The DC EV charging module, we stacked it in the middle of the stack. And then luckily I posted an Instagram story last night showing what we were doing, and somebody said to me, oh, Sigenergy told us that it needs to be at the top of the stack when we did ours. And I was like, so I contacted Sigenergy this morning just to check, and they were like, yeah, it needs to be below the energy controller, which is the top inverter module. It needs to be just below that. Tom and Ruben are going to have another workout this morning. They've got to take the 2 top battery modules off, remove the energy controller and put those 2 battery modules back on, and then the DC EV charger on top, and then the energy controller. So it's a little bit of a reshuffle, but I'm just glad we know now rather than in 2 weeks time find out that it's not properly working. So thank you to the person who pointed that out to me on Instagram. And if you don't follow us on Instagram yet, if you want to critique our work on Instagram, go over and follow us there. Don't do that. Oh, is that right? If you're a business owner, maybe you're an electrician and you aspire to be able to do projects like this yourself, I've got something for you. We have created a free school community online. It's called �սկooL.com/electricians. It's only for electrician business owners as a place to go to learn, to support each other, to share knowledge, and to help to grow and scale a successful electrical business. There's over 250 members in the community already, and I'm being quite selective about who I let in because you've got full access to my entire electrician's business course of how I built Artisan to a certain point, and there's going to be more and more content and lessons coming on there too, as well as a weekly coffee chat with me and a community of other electricians who also want to grow and succeed in their businesses. So there'll be a link below where you can apply to get access.
The tail's away into the grid switch now. So basically you've got your feed coming in from your meter, and then this one down here is your feed back out, so that's where we'll go to Henley blocks. And then these two, this is inverter 1 and inverter 2, so they're going to do both our stacks of batteries. And then this one up here is the smart port, so this is anything that you don't want on the backup side.
So the cables are getting all dressed in now. We're more or less there with all of them. Once they're all dressed in, we're going to bring each inverter's AC supply down next to it on the left-hand side, terminate them in an AC isolator. So we've gone for the 𝐎𝐚𝐫 63 amp 4-pole isolators. With the 63 amp, they are slightly oversized, which is great for when you're using bigger cables. It just gives you that little bit more room rather than really fighting to try and get some bends and sweeps in the cables. Now, some of you might be looking at this isolator and go, oh, he's screwed through the back of the isolator. Well, the isolator is being mounted indoors. We're not concerned about IP, water, or anything getting in it like that. So, in all honesty, I don't care.
Oh, can't get enough of this weather. It's just amazing. Diddly-lee, diddly-lee. So this is one of those moment of truth moments where you test to see whether everything's been wired up properly. So what we're going to do is a polarity test on each string. And what we're looking for is we should have 1 volt per optimizer, because with the SolarEdge system, because it's an optimized system, you don't get the full string voltage, but each optimizer gives out 1 volt. So we've got 30 panels per string. So that means we've got 15 optimizers. So we should have 15 volts per string. And we'll basically use our DC voltage multimeter here. We'll put the red on the positive, black on the negative, and oh no, we've got a problem, I think. We've got 12.4 volts and it's fluctuating, which means that something's not connected right. So I'll check the others, but there might be a wire the wrong way around or something. Yeah, if you can start checking through these, I would imagine it's exactly what happened last time, where a panel's been plugged into the optimizer instead of the optimizer into the panel. I'll check this one now as well and just see if we can get a comparison. Yeah, we've got exactly 15, you know, fluctuating, but it's around 15. So that's exactly what we want to see. So this one's good, that's a relief. Yep, so we've got 15, 15.2. So that's perfect. So this one is good. Yeah, something's not quite right on this one either. 13.9. This one is not quite right either. So what we're gonna have to do is just go through one by one. Now, I'll be honest, like, this is so easy to do, and it's one of the tricky things about SolarEdge is that it's easy to just get wires the wrong way around, especially when you're doing so many like this. It's easy to kind of get a little bit lost in the motions of what you're doing and then just connect 2 wires the wrong way round. The last thing you want to be doing is doing this tomorrow when we're going to be commissioning and have to come out in the dark and try and rearrange everything. So I'm glad that I came out and checked this now, and we're going to see if we can find the problem and fix it. Yay, that's it. Simple as that. So do you want to show us what the issue was?
This one was connected in here.
Yeah.
And I think it was, yeah, this one that goes to the solar panel was connected up to here.
Right, okay.
So I just traced it back and swapped it around.
There we go. Problem solved. I'm glad that was an easy, quick fix. Shall we see if we can find this one over here as well then? So essentially, because you've got 2 short inputs for the panel and then a short and a long one for the optimizer, sometimes it's easy to just get confused and plug the panel in to the wrong side. When that happens, you won't get the exact voltage per optimizer and you'll find it's fluctuating around quite a lot. Obviously, if you fix it now, it's great. If you try and liven it up, it could blow an optimizer or create some issues. So it's better to test with this voltage meter without putting any sort of power into the system, rather than just plugging the inverter in and finding that the inverter doesn't like it, won't let you commission, etc. Now you might notice I've just pulled these little rubber bungs off the end of the MC4 connectors. Now we put these on, they don't come with the MC4s. You can buy them, they're like £1 a pair or something, and get them from places like Midsummer or other online wholesalers. And the reason we fit them is as soon as you put the optimizers outside in cold weather, what can happen is moisture can just condensate inside these MC4 connectors, and then if it freezes overnight or something, you know, it freezes inside. It's very hard to get the moisture out. You end up having to like heat gun them to try and dry them out before you can plug panels in. Whereas if you just put these bungs over the top, it saves you getting all sorts of issues with moisture inside your MC4 connectors. And then obviously when you come to actually finally terminate them, it's fine because they're completely waterproof, but never leave bare ends of MC4s just hanging out overnight. You're just going to invite lots of problems. So you might be wondering what this strange rubber tape is. This is called amalgamating tape. It's like a rubber sort of silicon-based tape that will completely seal the end of the cable and stop it from getting any moisture in or anything. Actually, this is a really interesting question for debate. Should I be earthing the armouring of this cable or not? And actually, to be honest, I thought that we should. Let me know what you think in the comments before I tell you the answer. I'll tell you in a few minutes. It seems logical, right? Because it's a steel wire armoured cable, we're used to having to earth it, especially if it's buried in the ground. Because it's DC, should you be earthing it? So I've just caused quite a stir on LinkedIn by posing that question of whether the armouring of a DC cable should be earthed or not. Now, in my mind, there were 2 wolves at war. The one wolf of my experience tells me that you should always earth the steel wire armouring of a cable that's buried underground. But the other wolf of my newer knowledge tells me that DC systems don't need an earth, and therefore introducing an earth could be introducing a potential hazard. What do you think? Well, here's what we came to in the comments on LinkedIn. Number 1, earthing the steel armouring of the cable is not going to provide any protection because a DC system is not protected by ADS or automatic disconnection of supply. There's nothing built in to cause the system to trip in the case of a fault. Number 2, if the cable did get damaged, the armouring of the cable could become live during daylight conditions, causing an extra hazard. And number 3, DC systems are designed with the protection method of double insulation. They do not need an earth and they should not have one. And it's for that reason that PV Ultra is the best solution in this particular case, because the cable is double insulated and designed for DC systems like this. Now, let's get back to the video. So then over that, we're going to put some heat shrink sleeving as well. We're also installing it on the downward slope here, so that if any moisture does run down, it's going to run away from the cable rather than up inside the cable. The whole point of this is just, this system is designed to last 25 years, right? So everything that we do, we have to think, will this last 25 years? And if not, we have to find a way to make sure it will. Have I ever told you I love cable ties? I'm quite jealous because they've installed, wait for it, how many cable ties in this project? 2,100 and counting cable ties. and I've only got to do about 10, which makes me quite sad really. Now, another major challenge we faced on this job was this, the G99 application. Now, in case you don't know, every solar installation has to be registered with the DNO or distribution network operator in order to get permission to connect the generating set to the grid. Basically, they need to confirm that the grid locally can actually handle the potential power that you might be exporting out to the grid or importing to charge those batteries. So a G99 is submitted for a system below 3.68 kilowatts, but anything above 3.68 needs to go in as a G99 application. And if it's over a 50 kilowatt system, which ours was, it involves an even more complex G99 application like this, which is 55 pages long. So as you can imagine, it takes enough time just to prepare the G99 application. But that was when we hit some snags, because we submitted the application and we didn't hear anything back for 2 months from the DNO. And when we did, the application was rejected. They said that to connect the system that we originally designed, it would cost £80,000 to upgrade the local grid to be able to cope with a 50 kilowatt export to the grid. And for our customer, that just wasn't feasible. So we had to redesign the entire system with smaller inverters, a few less panels, to get permission for a 60 kilowatt overall system with a 20 kilowatt export limit. And in the end, our customer was happy with that. But we had 4 versions of the G99 that we had to submit, with a lot of communication back and forth with the DNO to get to the sweet spot where we had a big enough system that the customer was happy with without having to pay stupid amounts of money to upgrade the local grid. And this is just what happens when you're trying to connect big solar systems to the grid. It takes a lot of planning, research, prep and design changes to get that final approval from the DNO to connect the system. Oh, it's been a long day. It is one of those days where you feel like you get off to a good start, and then there's been a few hurdles, like we were missing a few little bits and pieces which have held us up, but we're getting there.
We're onto the SolarEdge now. Now we've got this big 30 kilowatt 3-phase SolarEdge inverter. It's a really cool one. It's a good design with them. So we have got DC isolation on the inverter. We have got PV Ultra run into here because there is a DC isolator. At this point, we're not going to put DC isolators here, which originally, when this was going to be a different inverter, I did plan to put a bank of DC isolators here. It's going to be a tough day tomorrow to get it all finished. We started really well and then things just took time. But I'd sooner us take our time and do it right than rush it and do it wrong or do it badly.
And that is it. The end of another day. It has been interesting. We'll see you tomorrow. So the panels are currently at their winter setting, and it's recommended that they get set at this 60-degree pitch from the 1st of October to about the 7th of March, when the sun is very low in the sky, to get the optimal amount of sun on these panels. In March, you would change them to about 45 degrees, then in April to about 30 degrees, and then in May to their lowest setting at about 16 degrees, which is when in summer the sun is at its highest point, and again you get the optimal amount of radiance on the panels. Then they stay like that for a couple of months, and then from July, August, you start to move them back towards the higher setting before you get to October, when they'll be back to 60 degrees. Now you might wonder, how much difference does it really make? Well, estimations are about 20% improvement potentially, but if you really want us to come back and do another video and kind of try and prove it and show what a difference it makes, we can do that here. So let us know if you'd like to see that in the comments below. These are proper MC4 disconnection and connection tools, and they are absolutely essential if you're doing solar. An MC4 connector that's not properly tightened is a fire waiting to happen. So we use these tools and they enable you to disconnect the MC4s without damaging them. I've seen people trying to go in with a screwdriver to unplug them and stuff. This makes it so easy. So we'll leave a link below where you can get yourself some of these. Absolute game changer if you're doing solar. Now, another challenge we faced on this install is actually planning the layout of these panels, because you don't want these banks of panels to be so close to each other that one shades the other at certain times of the year. So south is over there, and imagine at a certain time of the year, like now in winter when the sun is low in the sky, if you put these two close together, that array will shade this array and cause a loss of generation. So our in-house electrical engineer has done all of the shading calculations and designs to get us as close as we can together with these banks, that they don't shade each other most of the year. The customer didn't want them too far apart, so we've gone with about 6.5 meters distance in order to have the optimal location that doesn't take up too much space in the field, but that they don't shade each other either. And in order to get around that, what we've done is raised this rear bank of panels up by 60 centimeters. So this bank is higher than the front bank, and that again enables us to get a little bit closer without having the shading issue. Now, how we've arranged the wiring of these panels is also quite interesting, and it was tricky to get it right. We've designed each bank of 30 panels in a way that it can be one string on the SolarEdge inverter, and the SolarEdge inverter's got 4 MPPTs, 4 strings that we can have inputting into it. So this 2-core PV Ultra cable is one string, and that is basically going to connect this optimizer, which does these 2 panels, and then all the way along the top, 2 panels for one optimizer, then drops down at the end, and then all the way back down along the bottom, 2 panels per optimizer. And what that means is that if there's a bit of shading on the bottom row, for example, the back row in the heart of winter, early in the morning, will have a tiny bit of shading from this array. It'll only be shading the bottom row of panels, so you're not going to bring down the generation from the top panel, which is what would happen if you had the optimizers doing a bottom panel and a top panel rather than side by side. So another design thing that is very small and might appear insignificant, but makes a big difference. Now, with any solar system, you want to get the maximum output from your investment and from your array. So what we've done here is we've installed bifacial double glass with transparent backsheet panels. In these clips, you can see the green from the grass reflecting onto the back of the panel. And the backs of the panels have solar cells on them too, so they will also generate electricity from the back as well as the front. Now, can you imagine what would happen if it snows, or if you put a reflective white gravel on the ground, for example, or even like a mirror or a reflective sheet? The increase in generation could be quite impressive. In fact, maybe we should do a test on that at one point. But as it is, I would estimate that you're probably getting about 10% extra generation out of this system just by using the bifacial panels. So the Moulding guys have very precisely brought the cables out exactly where we wanted them, just at the bottom here. But there's a problem here that we faced as well, which I had to be careful of, which is sheep. So the customer's not going to be mowing this lawn every week or whatever. They've got sheep who are going to do the job for them. But we need to be careful to make sure that these cables don't get chewed through by a hungry sheep. So we've used armoured cable. It's got steel wire armouring inside of it, so it's very tough. And then we've kept kind of all the other stuff out of sheep height reach, so that it's all protected. And also the SolarEdge system, another reason why we use that is it's super safe. It constantly runs an insulation test, and if there's any damage to the cables, it'll instantly shut down. Now, this ground mount system is not installed with traditional ground screws. They use a special ground anchoring system, which is super strong and massively over-engineered, basically, to make sure that this system is not going anywhere. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Wanna play ball? Wanna play ball? No? Okay. So this is the tree that has caused us the most headaches. The original plan was to keep the cable route as short as possible to reduce DC voltage drop and things, and to go straight between these 2 trees with the moulding. However, one of the conditions on the planning application was that we need to mould around the tree to avoid any possible root damage, and that's added another 20 meters of cable to the run, which adds up to 80 meters across the 4 cables. Luckily, we managed to get it done. Do you want to see how far this cable run actually is? So they start here. Come with me. and they end up here. Oh my goodness, I forgot. My van has become like a Scrappy's van, so we've got a few offcuts of cable because we made sure, because with the moulding, if it's too short, you're absolutely stuffed. We had to make sure that it was definitely going to be long enough, which means we over-egged the cable lengths a little bit. I've managed to get all the offcuts in my van, and it's probably over the legal weight limit now or something like that, but I'm trying to get to something in this drawer. Oh yeah, it just about works, that's good. Welcome to my cosy little mobile desk setup. You might wonder why I'm crouched next to the customer's front door. It's because I'm trying to get onto their Wi-Fi, and it's a big house. So this is about the only place outside that we've got good signal at the moment. But what I'm doing is preparing everything for the commissioning process now. So I have to export the design from SolarEdge Designer into the monitoring platform. I've also got to just export the stringing layout so that we can supply that with the document pack for the customer. Let me show you the stringing layout actually. So this is what I meant by the first two panels are up and down, so they're on one optimizer, and then the top two are on one optimizer, top two on an optimizer, etc. So the numbers are the number of optimizers. That's string 1.1, that's string 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and the layout basically goes all the way along like that. The DC cable runs along to the end optimizer, drops down, and then along and back. And that's why we've got our positive and negative at this end, which we can connect onto. It keeps the string length as short as possible. So this is now the moment of truth where we test the cables to make sure that one, there's no damage, and two, to figure out which cable is which at each end and identify them so that we can connect them in the correct order in the inverter. So I'm going to get Ruben on loudspeaker. He's going to test at that end, then I'm going to plug these in, and we'll know then with a continuity test at that end which cable is which. Hey, right, okay, I'm going to plug in string 1. So these two are now connected.
Got it.
Yep, brilliant. So that is string 1. Yep, so I'll unplug these two now and I'll go to string 2, and then we'll do the same.
I reckon this is string 2 here, Max.
I think they're placing bets on which one it is.
Oh, what did I say, Max?
You got
What
it?
did I tell you? I just knew. Mate, I sniffed it out. I just knew it. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so I'm at string 3 now.
Yeah, got that one.
Great, okay, and then so the last one will be string 4. We will test it just to make sure we've got continuity anyway.
Yep.
I'm just gonna plug you in now. Okay, string 4.
Yeah.
Woohoo! We have, oh yeah, what is the reading?
It's like 1.2.
1.2 ohms, not bad for a 200 meter length of cable. Thanks, Ruben. That is a massive relief, to be honest. I mean, the amount that could go wrong with a cable length of this distance, with the fact that they've been pulled in with an underground impact moulding machine by non-electricians, I feel like it's a small miracle that we've managed to get the cables from one side to the other with no damage, and that is actually hats off to the moulding team. They've done a great job, so relief. And now we're getting to the stage where we can nearly start to connect everything up and liven it on. So the final part now is that we need to basically run the ends to their correct locations. This one's going to go in there, and the other one's going to go there, and then I'm going to cable tie them neatly, but I'm not going to connect them in until Ruben has finished doing the insulation resistance test, because if we insulation resistance tested it at the other end with the optimizers connected, we might have a little problem, because putting 1,000 volts through it, not a good idea. So here at the other end of all those cables, we've got our Sigenergy battery inverters. Now each of these is a 15 kilowatt inverter, but we've not got solar connected to these. As we mentioned, we've got a SolarEdge inverter, and there's a good reason for that. Each of these modules is an 8 kilowatt hour battery module. In this stack we've got 5, so that's 40 kilowatt hours of storage, and then we've got the DC EV charger, which we're going to do a separate video on, but essentially it's a 25 kilowatt DC rapid charger, and it's fully bi-directional ready, so that as soon as vehicle manufacturers open it up, they'll be able to actually run the house off the car, which is really cool. And in this stack we've got 6 8 kilowatt hour modules for a total of 48 kilowatt hours of battery storage. So across these two, we've got 88 kilowatt hours of battery storage, which, to put it into context, is enough to dump all of this power into a Tesla Model 3 and have some left over. It's enough power to run this house for about 24 hours in a grid outage, which is what the customer wanted, so that if they go like off grid, if they lose power, they're still good for 24 hours, and that's without the solar running. If it was a sunny day, the solar would be keeping these batteries topped up, and in theory, they could run infinitely off grid. So this is a Sigenergy backup gateway, and it does something amazing, which is that it provides whole house UPS, uninterrupted power supply, which means that if there's a power cut in the area, we switch over to battery power instantaneously without even a flicker in the sine wave, and keeping all of the electronic devices going in the property. Now that's important because out here in rural countryside, they do tend to get a lot of power cuts, and we've got enough batteries to last a whole day off grid. So how does this work, you might wonder? So let's have a little look inside. Essentially what we've got here is our main feed from the grid in. Then we've got our smart port, which we've connected our SolarEdge inverter to. That means that the SolarEdge inverter is monitored by the Sigenergy system, and we can see how much power is coming in from the solar. It also means that in an off-grid situation, the SolarEdge inverter is still going to work. And with a new software update that Sigenergy have just released, it will now ramp the inverter down using a change in frequency to be able to stop the inverter from generating if the batteries are full and the house loads are not enough to take all of that 30 kilowatts. The other side, we've got the backup side, which feeds the house and all of the loads in the house basically. We've got a surge protection device here, and then our 2 battery inverters, and everything is neatly housed within this gateway. Then we've installed a network switch, which gives our hardwired Ethernet connections to all of our devices. We've got the existing consumer unit here for the annex, as well as a new consumer unit that we fitted, and this feeds the main house, and we've given ourselves a 3-phase circuit for the SolarEdge Modbus. Now the SolarEdge Modbus with these CTs monitors how much power is coming in from the grid or going out to the grid, and it means that we can also monitor things in the SolarEdge app as well as the Sigenergy app. And it's all neatly connected together and ready to pump some beautiful power from the solar into this customer's house and even out to the grid. So residential, classic home, modern loft, blah, blah. It's just basically the image that you want to appear on the app. So I'll just choose a classic home. Total panel capacity, 52.8 kilowatt peak. Hey, there we go. We have Sige installed. So we've got our inverter, normal, DC chargers. Oh, okay, so it's picked up that one. We're just doing the firmware update because there have been some exciting new updates in the Sigenergy app, and I'll tell you about some of those in a minute. Now in the last video I made a mistake and we connected the third-party inverter in the wrong way, so we had to come back and change it. In this video I want to show you guys how to do it properly, and what you do is very simple. You connect the inverter to the gateway as you've seen, and then you go into the Sigenergy app and you do add system device, inverter, and then it says how does it connect. You choose gateway, then you put your inverter brand, so in this case we're doing SolarEdge, and then inverter model is a 30k, is it? Something like that. Doesn't particularly matter, it's a 30k inverter. Now contactor state is open, and now we can see that there's power but nothing's flowing, and it's simple as that basically. So that should now have livened this up, and that will enable us to do our magic with SolarEdge. So the SolarEdge startup is like this: DC on, then AC, and then we do the old flickety flick. Now one of the reasons we love the Sigenergy system is because they're so far ahead when it comes to their technology. For example, they are the first energy storage system manufacturer to fully integrate GPT-4, ChatGPT as other people might know it, in other words AI, into their software. And what that means is the software will work hard in the background to make sure that your battery system is working its best for you, based on weather conditions, your predicted usage patterns, how much solar it thinks you're going to generate, but also the energy prices on the grid, which can fluctuate at different times. And the difference that using this AI can make can be enormous. In fact, they've done a case study on it, and I'll leave a link below where you can read that case study. But what this means for us as installers and for you as homeowners is that you'll have a system that's constantly updating and improving over the time with over-the-air updates. For example, they've just added to the app individual string level monitoring for when you've got solar PV connected directly into your energy storage system. What that means is you can read the output of each individual solar string that's connected to your inverter, see how much it's producing, and learn about how different angles and orientations affect the generation on your system. They've also rolled out energy saving modes, of which there are 3, and I'll leave an article below where you can find out more about those. The other thing I love about the Sigenergy batteries is this. You can monitor the temperature of each individual battery module in the app in real time. You can also see all of the safety features that are built into these battery modules, and they are immense, which gives you the ultimate peace of mind knowing that you've got a super safe system in place. So this is it, it's done, it's up and running finally. Oh my goodness, what a marathon it's been to get all of this done, and we got it up and running just in the nick of time. Thanks again to Sigenergy for sponsoring this video, and if you want to see more installs like this, there'll be more popping up on the screen after the end of this video.